please welcome food, lifestyle, and travel host Adam Richman. And to interview him, Emily Steele of the New York Times. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
I just got to get this out of the way. And speaking about like Web Summit, can we just do epic crowd selfie? Just get this one out of the way. Everybody smile. Come on, give it up. There we go.
There you go.
As I spill water down my waistcoat. It's a perfect thing.
We had a question, though. What's the hashtag? Do you guys know? There you go.
Just Web Summit 2014. Dublin Web Summit ROX.
X makes it great.
Rocks.
So what have you eaten since you've been in Dublin?
What have I eaten? Well, I was really actually very fortunate. Good Food Ireland had a couple really amazing pop-ups yesterday. And, you know, if you guys are unfamiliar with the organization, they're committed to sort of the advocacy of using local products. And, you know, the proteins are almost 100%, or if not completely 100%. You know, produce, obviously, it's subject to availability, climate, and region and stuff. So I had an amazing meal at the pop-ups last night. I went to a restaurant called the Pig's Ear on Nassau, which was excellent. And
what did you order?
My manager and I kind of like did just about everything. Amazing, you know, some great crabs, beef cheek, some terrific salmon. But then they did like some wonderful terrines. And it's kind of amazing. People may not know I lived in Ireland for 1996. I had a research grant, and I lived in Dublin, Sligo, Glencolm, Donegal Town, a little town in County Galway called Castle Blakeney between Tuam and Athenry, Galway, and then back to Dublin. And to see how the eating scene has changed here, and you have places.
What do you think some of the biggest changes are?
Oh my gosh! I mean, I think that, you know, I know how the dot-com boom really affected. When I was here last, Ireland was on the punt. So I think, having this sort of homogeneous European currency has allowed for a greater flow through of ideas and tourism. But I think that the level of haute cuisine has, you know, like Unicorn, for example, was this like great stalwart. But now you're finding places like Chapter 1 and Greenhouse. You're finding things like Fade Street Social doing Irish tapas. So I think that, you know, yeah, there are the places like, you know, I remember wandering around and going to like Beshoff's and getting fish and chips and going to Bewley's for tea and stuff. But then the flip side of it is, of course, you know, now you can go and get Irish tapas. It's not just Colcannon and Boxty and, you know, Irish stew, that there's actually this really beautiful landscape. And when you have lamb, like they have here, for example, when you have crab, when you have the amazing seafood and the abundance that there is, that it's just wonderful to see it being utilized by chefs that grew up here, you know?
Can you tell us how you got into the food world?
Yeah, I wanted a particular G.I. Joe figure. And I asked my dad, a Storm Shadow, the white ninja, he was related to Snake Eyes, whatever, it's okay, I'm a dork, I didn't date much in high school. And my dad's like, oh,
This was in high school?
Oh, no, before,
Okay,
actually,
good.
before. But, you know, it's a long story. I
Anyway.
didn't get a pony when I was a little kid.
Okay,
And just,
it's
you know, lots of
sad
issues
story.
just piling up. No, I wanted something that's like, oh, that's great. You know, that costs money. You should go out and make you some. And I went around and, you know, I had a little potato chip and lemonade stand called Adam's Store first on Homecrest Avenue and Avenue U in Brooklyn. And then I got a job at a little Italian restaurant that doesn't exist anymore, but I was like the kid. Like I would sweep in front, I'd wipe down menus, I'd put the to-go menus under windshield wipers. I'd have to run away when like the big Brooklyn guys were like, hey kid, what are you doing in my car? Get off my car. And you know, just whole buns like a bread truck up the street. But then the thing was they knew that I took an interest. And the very first like cooking magic I experienced, my great aunt Anne, may she rest in peace, lived upstairs from us. And she taught me how to make a cheese omelet when I was about like 6. And I had seen these eggs and just like craft singles or whatever, and to see them become something else. And it was like alchemy, and the notion of, we'll get the English muffin started, and then I'll do this, and I'll season this, and it all kind of coalesces into this third thing. So then when I got this job at Lido Venice, which I guess no longer exists, unfortunately, they would say, you know, Adam, you want to learn how to make saltimbocca? And they would go in, you know, and it was a world beyond chicken parmesan, much to my delight. So I did that, and then worked in the food industry to support my acting habit, and did that for a long, long time. And actually, my father and I had always wanted to get formal sushi training, and he passed before that opportunity came. And so when I got into Yale drama as a gift for getting into Yale, my stepmother paid for me to get formal sushi training. And so I did that, and I've been working in kitchens, and it's really random, but I was washing, I had been a waiter trainer, a delivery guy around the delivery kitchen, like literally the opening of Man vs. Food, when I said I had every job, it's the truth. And I was a dishwasher. The guy on our cold station got arrested, and I had been asking the chef questions, and I would take notes. My dad used to say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so play the odds. And I kept a little tiny book I bought in Chinatown, those little, like tiny little thumb, sort of mini Moleskine. And I asked questions, and so like the chef was like, hey, if I show you what to do on cold stations, could you not mess up till 2 a.m.? I was like, yeah, chef. He said, can you turn a radish? I said, into what? He's like, just don't talk. And it was great. And so I did that, and lots of off-the-books, cash-only kind of work. And flash forward, I came out of Yale, and I had some skill, and I was doing regional theater, and again, would pick up some under the table, cash-based, if they had events they were planning for, or they didn't have a line cook. And there's a great book. I highly recommend it. It's called, and I have no vested interest in this at all. It's a book called The Renaissance Soul by Margaret Lobenstein. And the third title is Life Designed for People with Too Many Passions to Pick Just One. And there's this great reverse flowchart exercise where you sort of take your passions and you realize what it can coalesce into an actual job. And I'm not kidding you, being a food television host was literally what it came out as. So I signed with some really wonderful agents coming out of Yale. There was an open call. And the open calls would sometimes be like, I don't know, Discovery Channel looking for bilingual, blonde, Spanish-speaking scuba diver. And this one thing, they were looking for someone who knew regional food. And I had been keeping a regional food journal since '95 when I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia. And I launched myself at this audition. And 6 or 7 auditions and screen tests later, and a pilot we shot in Memphis, the very first location of Man vs. Food was Rendezvous Barbecue. We got picked up. 3 episodes in, they wanted 8 more. 13 episodes in, they said, we'll do this show as long as you want to. And 59 episodes later, we're in 33 different countries. I've had 5 shows since, and every restaurant, mom and pop restaurants, have gotten 150 to like 300% increase in business. So I'm pleased to say it's a great legacy to have.
That's wild. One of the things that I'm so curious about is your show. It's, as you say, it's very global, but it's also a very, very local story too. Why do you think that that idea spread?
I think there's like a degree of like hometown pride. You can't talk to someone from Pittsburgh and you say something about Primanti Brothers sandwiches, it's like, oh, they get it. I met people from Dublin and New York, and you mentioned Bewley's or Bischoff's, or you mentioned, my favorite pub is on Poolbeg and Tara, it's called Mulligan's. And, like, oh my God, I know that, I've been there, I know what we're talking about. So it becomes as much a touchstone as like the state capitol or the largest ball of twine or whatever that city is known for. And there's a tremendous amount of civic pride, and also there are dishes that only exist in those cities. So when you like highlight the horseshoe in southern Illinois, or when you highlight the beef on weck in the Great Lakes region in Buffalo, or the po' boy in New Orleans, that's mother's milk. And you're speaking to their heritage and to their childhood as much as you're saying this is a tasty food.
What's the toughest challenge you've participated in?
Oh my gosh. Oh wow! It's because they all kind of it's all a lateral degree of suck. I think they're all kind of difficult. There was one spicy one, the only spicy one I ever lost, and it was actually because the owner cheated. We had a brand new director. He cheated. His microphone was open, and my very dear friend and director Dan Kornfeld. It was his first episode, and he actually directed all of season 2 and 3 of Man vs. Food, and the owner, after making the sauce, said, let's just throw the whole bottle of ghost chili extract in. And it's not just that it was unfair, it's actually quite dangerous. Ghost chili extract has actually been weaponized in police grenades in India. And it could have actually really, really damaged me. And I think people are very cavalier. To me, the really great spice challenges that are out there, that I've tried, that I've done, that I've tasted, it's any good, and I think that this is, for me, a rule that supersedes the challenge. I think that it actually speaks to spicy food in general. The flavor and the flame have to be hand in hand. if it blows you out, you lose all the taste. Like a good spicy dish, if you go to Jitlada Thai in Los Angeles, if you go to Brick Lane in New York, if you go to Chengdu Taste in Alhambra, California, I love Szechuan Gourmet in New York, that there's a balance of heat and a balance of flame. And that was just agony. That sucked.
I think this emergence of foodie culture is so fascinating. We were talking about this on the way over, and you said that you don't necessarily consider yourself a foodie, but you consider yourself a gastronaut.
A gastronaut, yeah.
Why do you think that has emerged, and do you think technology has anything to do with that?
Absolutely. It's a great question, actually. I think that, foodie has sort of been appropriated by there's like the snooty foodie, and then there's like this food enthusiast that initially had sort of come to the fore. And, first of all, like we were saying, you can go to a corner store or online and you can get gourmet ingredients that you used to only maybe find like in a Asian grocery store. You can now find at your typical supermarket. You can find sriracha, pickled ginger, wasabi powder. I mean, it's kind of bananas that it's in the same place. You'll find chocolate milk and Coca-Cola and whatever, that they're side by side. Technology, I mean, for me, especially being a TV presenter and a producer, in real time, I mean, I posted a thing, so I played in Soccer Aid at Old Trafford in June for 5 illustrious minutes. Thank you, Jose Mourinho. And
but you trained for a long time.
I trained for a very long time, and in fact, I went 100% vegan while training. And for me, as someone who's all about flavor and comfort food, I was like, okay, dog, this isn't going to be 4 months of broccoli. Like, no, not going to happen. And though I can appreciate, a well-cooked plate of vegetables, I wanted to explore the sort of vegetarian meats out there and stuff. So first of all, being able to search, for companies like Beyond Meat, find out where they're sold, find out recipes. People would be hashtagging recipes or say, I used Beyond Meat meatless chicken, or I used Morningstar Farms crumbles, or Gimme Lean, whatever. So finding recipes and the sharing of recipes on certain web rings is amazing. You have things like eRecipes and Epicurious, but also I can post a dish that I made and people will ask for a recipe, or I'll try something at a restaurant and I'll reinterpret it and see, how someone else may have received it and how they would reinterpret it. And also, I think that because people look to me to post something other than that which is vegan, that I was like, you know what? I have to respect my fans. I work because my fans allow me to. And if I sit there and 600 posts of different kinds of falafel, I don't really think that's really cool. So it's about trying to find something that's tasty and something that has the big flavors, but still works within that spectrum. So it's great, the idea of sharing recipes, getting feedback in real time. I would land in a city and say, what's up, Houston? Where am I eating tonight? And you get recommendations and fierce opinions. Where's the best sandwich? Portland, Oregon. And you get all these recommendations. And it's not like just that these people are doing your work for you, but they're right where the rubber meets the road. It's not theory. These are the people that are the lifeblood of that city.
How has the role of a TV personality, especially in the food world, changed with the influence of social media?
It's bonkers. I didn't go to CIA or Cordon Bleu or Johnson & Wales or FCI or HCE and all these different C's and A's and B's and Q's. I didn't. I learned all my technique and my mother's sauces and primal cuts. I learned them on the line. I sort of, school of hard knocks style of thing. And I'm not a chef. I make that distinction very clear. Marco Pierre White's a chef. Gordon Ramsay's a chef. I'm a cook. And I'm a home cook, But I think that that's the thing, is that now most of the world reflects, by virtue of the fact we have a full room, we have a food summit. You have people that love food. You have people that want to explore and people that used to be afraid. Peter Brook had a book about theater called The Empty Space, and he talks about the deadly theater. And it's where people go, oh, I don't understand it. It must be my fault. And so people began to feel that way about food, I feel, that they would get emulsions and gastriques and terrines and not know what any of those words meant. And they would try these dishes with bee pollen and dandelion boogers or something like this. And they're like, oh, okay, octopus feathers, let's go with it, sweetbreads. But now I think that we've demystified a lot of food. And there's room for a gastronaut, a kid who had a lemonade stand on Homecrest Avenue, to speak to the passions of everyone from a pipe fitter that I met in St. Louis to a little kid I met last night on the street to Tony Hawk to Nick Frost is a buddy of mine, and the thing is, he's a terrific home cook. And maybe having discourse, I know that when I've spoken to marquee chefs, we can converse and share ideas up to a point, but then my skill set runs out. The cool thing is the lion's share of the world are passionate people. So I think that if I just am passionate, if I'm honest about my passion, honest about what I know and what I don't know, then I think that I can create a gateway for the folks that are just food enthusiasts. And I say gastronaut, not just trying to be like, but like also, it's about food exploration. And that's the other thing where I think the web comes in. It's a way of exploring a city. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not a culinary anthropologist, but that's the closest I can come. And it's the best thing in the world.
Can you tell us about your latest projects, what you're working on now?
Yeah, totally. I just did a show in the States. I love the term shiny floor network primetime game show, but the floor was awfully shiny. It was called Food Fighters. So it's a home cook versus professional chefs. So home cooks take 5 of their best recipes, go head to head with 5 pro chefs, one after the other. They sort of pick recipes that go to the blind spot of that chef. And 5 citizens, I hate using ordinary people, no one's an ordinary person, but 5 just folks that are just in different walks of life, don't know it's a pro versus an amateur, doesn't know whose dish is whose, and they vote, and best of 5 wins. So it's called Food Fighters. We shot 8 episodes, very successful in I'm very blessed, knock on wood, in the States, and hopefully that'll be coming to the UK. And I have a cookbook, my very first cookbook, which I never thought I would ever get asked to do one, but my publisher had done a survey, and I guess people really wanted to know what I would do with a cookbook. And so I have a book called Straight Up Tasty, Meals, Memories, and Mouthfuls from My Travels, and it literally is like a combination of flavors I had in Croatia with a dish, crossed with a dish I tried in Portland, Maine, with my own kind of fun, psychotic spin on food. But I also did little sidebars, great places for dates, the best French fry restaurants I've had around the world, the entire history of chocolate in rhyme, haikus that actually delineate different cooking preparations. Because a lot of people, I realize, don't really know what's braising, what's roasting, what's tempering, what's poaching. And just a clear definition without it being a glossary, I went for haiku. Go figure. I don't know. I'm a weirdo.
Hey, Dallas. I mean, we're at a tech summit. I cook a lot of my recipes off of apps from my phone. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if I own a cookbook. Why do a cookbook today? That's
a really great question. I think that's true. You get so many recipes online, on web rings. I think that it's about like having something tangible to follow that's not dependent on your internet connection or the size of your screen, that you're not going to get a call on in the middle of like sauteing something.
It's happened.
It has, and you get sauce on them. It's always a delight. But the other thing is, it's about imbuing it with a degree of personality. I mean, I will fully cop to the fact that I would collect cookbooks, and that was a preferred means of reading, but the ones that spoke to me were the ones that had little fun sidebars, that had a little treatise on eating spicy food, or great burger restaurants around the country, or great, like I did a menu, like Chinese food menus with different proteins. I did like best beef, best chicken, best fish, best veggie. But I think that the other thing is, because you can, rather than post a recipe, that you can give it a little bit of story, a little bit of a sense of place in the continuum of the story of food, that I think that it's really beholden upon me to be accountable to a fan, to be accountable to an enterprising food explorer, to give something a little extra, and to give more than just, here's a recipe, here's my blog, Godspeed you. Because there's a lot of that, and it'll only be one of my books.
So we're at this tech summit. Mm-hmm. What sort of things are you on the prowl for? What are you curious about or interested in?
Oh, wow. I mean, I guess I've sort of been just absolutely gobsmacked by how broad-reaching tech has gone. There's summits on wearable tech, and obviously tons of, because like all the business solutions and the web security and personal identity security and stuff. And not that that's not valid, that's not important, but I think that there is a sports summit side by side with a food summit, side by side with an entertainment one. But the web is sort of the great equalizer, and you have everything from the keyboard warrior to the keyboard champion. You have the YouTube star, the people that are Vine famous, the people that are Instagram famous. And I think that's the thing, there's Jim Morrison said that whole thing, they got the guns, but we got the numbers. But now everybody's got the airwaves. And you can do a YouTube series.
What does that mean for you? I write a lot about TV, and I'm just so fascinated by the explosion of all of these outlets, whether it is Vine or Instagram or Twitter or YouTube or whatever else is next. How do you, as someone who really grew up and has this huge brand in the TV world, think about all of these different outlets?
It's like a 50-50 split, I think to some degree it's awesome because it gives opportunities to people who otherwise might not have them. When it was just, I remember when the only food shows I could see were on public broadcast, and it was the Frugal Gourmet, Justin Wilson, the Cajun Cook. He was the guy with a guarantee. Julia Child or Jacques Pepin back in the day. And again, brilliant chefs all. And maybe with the exception of some recipes of the Frugal Gourmet and Justin Wilson, it didn't really speak to my experience. Then you started seeing, the mom and pop shops getting their due. And that really was more akin to, when I started my food journal in '95, I didn't do it with the notion of one day this will be the basis of a food show where I'll eat 5-pound burritos. Like it wasn't, like this long-term Machiavellian plan towards like T-shirt and hot spicy challenge supremacy. I will fully cop to this. I got my heart really badly broken junior year of college, and I bought like a Moleskine book to write like cheesy college breakup poetry. I thought like that was like my time's up. I'm okay. I was like, oh my God, I have to answer the password. But it's like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 cats. But no, so the thing was, basically, I went to this place. I used to go on drives throughout Atlanta to explore, and I found this restaurant, and I had started writing about my feelings and stuff, but I was contextualizing it in this restaurant, in this meal, the waitress's smile, the Van Morrison music that was playing, the Indonesian salad gado gado they were serving, very emo. But the irony was, it was like I could encapsulate the experience, and food was the bridge, and it unlocked more, and it actually gave me a greater sense of place than just some cheesy, black turtleneck, smoking clove, listening to The Cure kind of poetry would have. And, oh, my eye bleeds tears of steel into my soul. Get out of here with that. So, the thing is, again, coming to it with no restaurant, no prior cookbook, no oeuvre of work to look at beyond my acting stuff that I got out of Yale, that I had a shot. Now I think a lot of people do. The flip side is, of course, the market becomes glutted. And it's hard to separate the wheat from the chaff and to know, okay, this is someone who has a voice. This is someone that has a unique hit on something.
How do you stand out? Because right now, at least in the U.S., there's so many food competition, glorious food shows on TV right now today. Yeah. That to be the next guy with the next TV food show, it's really difficult.
It is, but I think that it's a difference. You can't. You're not going to build a better mousetrap, right? I think that it's a matter of having a clear hit. Man vs. Food had the advantage of being the very first food challenge programming. That you had shows like Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, or just sort of voiceover-based shows that were showing comfort food locations. But, the thing is, Guy had one sort of hit. Guy Fieri had his sort of hit on comfort food and the way he approached restaurants and how he approached discovery of them. And I had my own. So I think moving forward, it's someone who's going to be true to themselves, true to their experience, and find a unique way of exploring food, not treading over well-trodden paths.
That's interesting. With your latest project, this latest show, what was the premise of that? How did that come to be?
I was just very lucky. Electus Productions had created it, and again, because it was about championing home cooks, of which I am one, that I think that they just sort of understood that I was someone that was going to be able to speak. This is the thing. These folks are knocking out ridiculously good recipes, and their moms, injured veterans, grandfathers, a newlywed guy, and recipes that they got from their grandma, stuff that they perfected, stuff that they had messed up and accidentally had like fallen, into luck and created this awesome recipe. So they had created the format, and then they wanted me to sort of imbue my own personality into it.
How much acting is involved?
I think that it's a matter of, same with Man vs. Food, they're like, well, you're using your Yale degree? It's like, yeah, you have to push a narrative. You have to have breath support to support, 2 pages of voiceover. But also it's a matter of understanding what the moment needs, understanding that there is a 4-act structure in any given show, whether it's a half-hour, 1-hour format, and understanding that from an advertising standpoint, you have to create a propulsive quality because you want people to watch the commercials and still tune in as much as you want to make sure you keep an audience engaged. And I can't just fun, witty line readings doesn't work. You actually have to have an inertia and say, I don't know if this recipe is going to work. He hasn't allowed this thing to thaw, and there is a very significant chance that this shell is going to fall and his entire filling is going to fall out. Then you know what you're looking for. You know what's at stake. You know that there is something at risk, and it gives the audience a little bit more information. So I think there's a decent amount of acting, I guess.
Can you tell us, do you miss taking the challenges?
I miss the sort of environment. It's like being Maximus in Gladiator. Like I would walk in, and I was just like, taking down a gigantic calzone, but you would think I was fighting a minotaur.
Tell us how you prepared. I was reading about this before. I think this is so fascinating.
All right, so I would do like a sizable meal or a gallon of water in less than 7 minutes or so, and then I would do cleanses. In the morning of, I would do wind sprints, jump rope, and then I would do squats, and I would do, if there was no gym, I would do back workouts lifting my luggage in my hotel room, or I had like a pull-up bar. Because leg and back, those are the muscle groups that will accelerate your metabolism the most, the more muscle mass you have, because they're your largest muscles. So I would do that, and the thing is, these chefs would get scared because by the time I did the challenge, I would not have eaten in about 14 to 16 hours. So they were like, dude, please just have something. Like, you look like a ghost, like, step it up. And I was like so pale, it looked like I was like living underground my whole life. And then that was the craziness. You go from this to this deluge of calories and trying to whoop up an audience with nothing in your system. Then you get slaughtered, and people thought that it was like, yeah, I'm gonna rock and pillage the culinary landscape of Texas. And the truth of the matter is I would do the challenge. It was awesome. I would, just sort of take a moment, call my mom, like, hey, I made it, everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, my mom would give me these great pep talks. I would listen, I would shadow box. I boxed for a while, so I would shadow box just to sort of get amped and listen to my music. I actually had a little signature handshake with each of my crew members and, hug them out. I had different ones for each crew member, but they all started. I used to work at Madison Square Garden Television when I got Man vs. Food. Here, I'll show you the basis of them all. They started with a handshake I saw Jay-Z and LeBron do. But you got to do it like, yeah, we got this. We ain't got to like work at it. But they would go pop, 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 and a fist. But they wouldn't like go bam, bam. They would just say, hey, man, baby brother, you know what I mean? It's all right, whatever. So they would just knuckle it out. But then we had like a little signature button on each. So I would do that, get the crowd into it, go in, do the challenge, and then the thing was my crew was the one that would go out and drink and gallivant and hit on waitresses and do the thing. And then it was me with a gallon of water, like the Baton Death March, in the hotel gym on the treadmill. I kid you not, like forehead on the console, starting at a mile an hour and eventually getting it up. And then I would do another cleanse that my physician had given me to
and
sort of.
And you miss this.
What I do miss is the fact, because truthfully, the food is the food is the food, and it's awesome. The challenge is maybe not so much.
Is it so awesome after like the 30th bite?
It's not a matter of that. When you realize that people are so happy to see you in Butte, Montana, Columbus, Ohio, Springfield, Illinois, a place that doesn't always get its props, it's really nice to be their champion on any level. It's nice to understand that, yeah, me throwing myself against this culinary gauntlet, because I'm not a competitive eater. I wanted to do it with the aplomb of a bunch of college guys taking a road trip. It's like, bro, dude, you got to try this Sunday. If you do, we all get a T-shirt, bro. Come on. And that was the whole idea that, like Hamlet says, the readiness is all. I may win, I may lose. But at the end of the day, this restaurant, this mom and pop place that was built by salt of the earth, really kick-ass people, it is going to do well. And win or lose, a T-shirt, a picture on the wall, come on. I could get it, not get it, it's fine. But to know that a kid from Brooklyn who's passionate about food can communicate with people from a different background in San Antonio to the degree that you're welcome in San Antonio anytime, Adam. We love you. We love the respect you have for this city. That I feel if I showed respect, I would get respect. If I acknowledged what I didn't know and was willing to learn and willing to sort of throw myself up against this sort of matrix of experience, then rock and roll, man. I'm all for it. But I'm glad I have hung up my fork, and it's been a blast exploring stuff like the best sandwich. I did a show called Fandemonium, which was about the foods that fans eat. And my newest show, Man Finds Food, is actually, they're premiering it in Australia now on 7 Mate, but it's, in my opinion, the best show I've done. And now that red light is flashing, it went red, and now they're like, get off, exterminate, exterminate.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thank you, Emily, everybody.